There was a time, long before you knew how the world worked, when you asked for more. Not out of greed, not out of entitlement, but because something in you knew you deserved it. Maybe it was love, maybe attention, maybe freedom, maybe truth. But you asked, you reached out, and the world slapped your hand away, not always physically. Sometimes it was a look, a cold silence, a sudden withdrawal of warmth, a punishment crafted not with fists, but with shame. And in that moment, something shifted. You stopped asking. This is how people learn to settle, not because they don't want more, but because wanting more once cost them something they weren't ready to lose. You see it everywhere. In the man who stays in a job he hates. In the woman who calls her relationship fine but flinches when no one's looking. In the artist who buried their sketchbook 10 years ago after someone laughed at a drawing. We've all built small lives around large wounds, and most of us don't even know it. They taught us that ambition is arrogance, that desire is dangerous, that dreaming is childish, and we believed them. Why wouldn't we? We were kids. We looked to adults to define reality, and when they punished us for wanting more, we didn't question them. We questioned ourselves. The truth is, most people's ceilings weren't built by their own hands. They were installed by someone else. A parent, a teacher, a friend who said too little or far too much. And over time, we started decorating those ceilings, making them look like home. We told ourselves stories. I'm not that kind of person. People like me don't get that. It's too late for me. But those aren't beliefs. They're scars that learned how to talk. Psychology calls this learned helplessness. When a person is exposed to consistent punishment or failure, they stop trying, even when the punishment is gone. The classic experiment involved dogs in cages, subjected to electric shocks. The dogs who couldn't escape eventually stopped trying, even when the door was wide open. They had learned to give up. You were taught to settle by people who were scared of your hunger, because your hunger reminded them of everything they had given up. It threatened them, made them uncomfortable. So they crushed it before it could bloom. They called it humility. They called it being realistic. But it was fear, dressed in wisdom. There's an ancient story in Greek mythology about Prometheus. He stole fire from the gods to give it to humans, symbolizing knowledge, power, creation. And for that he was punished. Chained to a rock, liver eaten daily by an eagle regenerating every night. The gods didn't punish him because humans weren't worthy. They punished him because he dared to challenge their monopoly on power. The fire you asked for was dangerous to someone. That's why they extinguished it. Not because you weren't worthy of it, but because your light would have exposed their darkness. So you learned to dim yourself, to shrink, to play roles that felt safe. The easygoing one, the quiet one, the strong one who never needed help. Roles are prisons when you forget their roles. Most people live their whole lives stuck in a script written by someone else. A father's expectations, a teacher's dismissal, a society's judgment. They confuse survival strategies with personality. But who you had to become to stay safe is not who you truly are. Ask yourself, who would you be if no one had ever shamed you for wanting more? Would you have started that business, left that town, spoken your truth without apology? We've turned settling into a virtue. We call it maturity, responsibility, just being realistic. But if you peel back the layers, what you often find underneath is fear, a fear that came from punishment, from rejection, from exile. The first time you asked for more and were told you were too much. Do you remember that moment? It usually happens young. A child says, "Look at me," and someone says, "Stop showing off." A teenager dreams out loud and hears, "Don't get your hopes up." A young adult takes a risk and is told, "You should have played it safe." Each time a flame dies, not completely, but enough to make you afraid of its heat. So you settle. You take what you're given. You silence your needs. You pretend it doesn't hurt. And you call that peace. But peace without passion is just numbness. Look around. How many people do you know who are alive, but not living? They've built a life on low expectations, a relationship that's better than being alone, a job that pays the bills, a version of success that impresses others but empties them inside, and they wonder why they feel hollow. The system wants you to settle. It's easier to control people who doubt their worth. People who don't believe they deserve more won't rebel. They'll work harder for scraps, grateful for crumbs, because they think that's all they're worth. This isn't accidental, it's structural. From schools that reward obedience over creativity, to workplaces that value conformity over innovation, to families that teach love as a transaction, earned only when you're small enough to fit their mold. But you were never meant to fit. You were meant to grow. And growth is dangerous. It threatens the fragile systems built on hierarchy, control, predictability. So they taught you that wanting more was selfish, that reaching higher meant stepping on others, that dreaming was only for the privileged. But the truth is, wanting more is not selfish. It's sacred. Your desires are not sins. They are signals, clues to who you truly are beneath the conditioning. And the punishment you received, it wasn't a sign that you were wrong. It was a sign that you were powerful, because only powerful things get punished. You don't get in trouble for being invisible. You get in trouble for shining, for wanting, for speaking when silence was expected. So what do you do now, with this fire that still flickers inside you? First, you name the lie. The lie that told you settling was safety, that smallness was strength, that comfort was freedom. You name it. You stare it in the face, and you ask yourself, who does this lie serve? Because it's not you. Second, you grieve. You grieve the years you spent trying to earn what you already deserved, the talents you buried, the dreams you silenced, the love you accepted just to feel something close to warmth. Grieving is not weakness, it's healing. And healing is how we remember who we were before we were told who to be. Third, you reclaim. You go back to the moments where you were punished for wanting more, and you rewrite them in your mind, not to erase the pain, but to see it clearly, to realize they were wrong. They were wrong to tell you you weren't enough, or that you were too much. They were wrong to clip your wings before you had a chance to fly. And you were wrong to believe them, but that's not your fault. You did what you had to do to survive. But now, it's time to live. Living means risk. It means disappointment. It means opening yourself up to rejection, failure, discomfort. But it also means fullness, meaning, real joy, the kind that only comes when you stop pretending. You don't need permission to want more. You don't need to justify your hunger. You don't need to apologize for your ambition. You just need to trust that your desire is not dangerous. It's divine. Think of the people who changed the world. They were all punished for wanting more. Mandela imprisoned. Galileo silenced. Malala shot. They were told to sit down, be quiet, be grateful, and they refused. They didn't settle for the world as it was. They demanded the world as it could be. You don't have to be famous to be powerful. You just have to stop living someone else's life. Your story doesn't end with settling. That was just the middle chapter. The next one, that's up to you. But you can't write it while still editing yourself to fit someone else's comfort. So ask yourself, what did I stop asking for because it hurt too much to want it? And now, can I want it again? Not with shame, but with reverence, with power, with the full knowing that wanting more is not a flaw. It's a signal that you were meant for more than survival. The world doesn't need more people who have settled. It needs people who remember the child who reached out with open hands, who remember the fire that flickered before it was snuffed out, who remember that peace isn't the absence of desire, but the alignment of desire with courage. You don't need to stay small to be safe, you need to be free. And freedom starts the moment you stop apologizing for wanting more. If this spoke to something inside you, don't let it fade. Take a breath, let it settle, and ask yourself, what would change if I stopped settling? If this message resonated with you, help it reach someone else who might need it. Like the video, subscribe for more reflections like this, and in the comments, tell us, What was the first thing you learned to settle for, and what do you want now? What? You're not broken. You're just remembering who you were before the world taught you to forget. Now go. Want more. Not because you're greedy, but because you're finally ready to stop settling for less.